All right, so my name's Jeff. I'm a millionaire. I didn't make it from pharmacies, although I'm a doctor of pharmacy. I made it through real estate, and my best year as a pharmacist, I made around $170,000 every single year. After taxes, it was much less than that, and for that reason, I don't really think it's a lot. And I'm explaining today why I teach real estate and not pharmacy, although I could teach pharmacy school if I really wanted to. But I decided not to go that route for a very clear reason, where the people I was trying to help, it didn't end up being patients at the end of the day. The people I didn't want to help is actually the people I worked with for like 15 years. So I'm not going to talk about like my whole strategy today about like how I do Airbnbs. That's for another story. If you want to see how I do, you can just check out like my last 3 videos. But here's what I see going on with my coworkers and my peers and people that I work with and the overall general public in healthcare. I see a lot of people that are really stressed financially and they don't understand finance. And recently, like I understand why. Like it's when you sign up for undergraduate school, um, and people tell you to look for a career, you're focused on basically just passing the classes. And you don't pass pharmacy school or medical school by thinking about econ or money in general. But that's one big downfall of like being in healthcare is you're essentially a public servant. Because you don't understand numbers and you don't understand finance, you're just there trying to make people feel better, help them when they're in a tough spot. So if someone has, hopefully they have a if they had like bad news, like they just got diagnosed with diabetes, you're there to kind of explain to them. And these are people who don't understand healthcare. Like to us, it seems very, very normal. It's like, hey, we see diabetic patients every day. We see cancer patients every day, unfortunately. We see people in pain every single day. We see people with like HIV, with AIDS, pretty commonly. And that's just what you have to get used to as a healthcare worker. But for that reason, you can't be good at everything in life unless you study everything. And me realizing that, hey, if I gave my life to healthcare, I would never have like any time for myself because I never had enough money to do other things I wanted in life. Like I pretty much felt really broke, and the economy itself was working against my salary that didn't get really good wage increases. And because I was taught to be a W-2 worker, I never understood like where the money came from and like how someone was able to pay me $170,000 my best year as a pharmacist. But that's stuff you need to know, especially when like COVID happened. Like we all understood like basically they were just giving away money to everyone, and spending 8 years in school, going like almost $200,000 worth of debt to become a pharmacist that was supposedly like gonna be increasing wages, gonna be stable, and it was supposed to be kind of unique. But nowadays, like minimum wage is way higher. The government overall is like pushing for other people to have like equal pay. So if that's the case, I mean, why like make it even harder on ourselves and spend 8 years of school and all this knowledge and all this like multiple like months of all-nighters. Like I remember sleeping in libraries. If you ever want to like go back and like see my old videos, I've slept in libraries multiple times, slept in cars, like just to make sure I made it onto like there to my finals. And then it wasn't free to go to school either. It was really expensive, and it's a lot of effort. So we put our bet into school, like into the past, like saying, hey, 8 years ago it was probably a really good job. Like they weren't just giving away money to everyone. You didn't have to work so hard to hopefully make $170,000 and then just lose it all to tax, because as you get higher in the tax bracket, it gets worse. And if you can't really relate to this, that's totally fine. Like you can just pass and move on. And I realize like it sounds like this is coming from a super privileged place where my parents, they started off like picking blueberries, making like $20 per bundle that they would sell. So if you're like one of those people, like this is not going to make sense to you. But if you're one of my friends and you're a newer generation, you're maybe 25 to 45 years old, and you were making six figures, or you were in healthcare and you had to take out all this debt to do what you thought would be good for other people, which is like serving them, taking care of their health. It's considered a respectable job. It's really hard to earn a white coat and to earn a doctorate, but the pay just wasn't really well respected. And then I thought it was going to be better. Like the pay, I thought was going to be much better. The working conditions are pretty okay depending on which company you work for. But I have a lot of friends in companies that aren't very, like, I don't know what the word is, but they've gotten a lot of, they complain to me a lot personally, that's all. And they work at like those big retail chains. Mine, I like my company overall. I'm not gonna name names, but I think if you're in healthcare, you know which companies to avoid specifically. You'll probably see it all over the news, like these big chains that you might not like. But they complain a lot about their finances, and they don't understand, like, technically, even though, like, yeah, we thought everything was going to be good. Someone told us it was going to be like a fire job. We're going to be respected. It didn't turn out that way. And, like, your money doesn't go as far. Someone tried to spit at me the other day when I was, like, trying to serve them, like, during COVID times. My friends complain that it's understaffed at their pharmacies. Mines are okay again. So you don't have the help. The respect, I don't know. I don't think someone who's spitting at me really respects me, to be honest. The pay is not good enough. So there's just like so many like downsides to actually pursuing a doctorate nowadays. And that might be different for like nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, MDs. I don't know. That's not me. But I'm assuming it's relatively similar, because there's been a lot of like dissatisfaction reported for healthcare workers overall. Like I did a study just for pharmacists specifically. In like 2021, I think it was like 37% were unsatisfied and considered leaving the workforce. And in 2022, I think it hopped up to like 72% where pharmacists were considered leaving their workforce. And it takes a lot to do that, because if you think about it, someone just spent 8 years in school, almost $200,000 worth of debt, and they probably still have that debt and they're still willing to leave. That means they're suffering. Like there's something going wrong mentally with their health, to make them want to leave even after investing all this time. And then the reason why I got into real estate is because what it helped me kind of look at is like, what is actually a good idea. So if my next problem that I always face, like being a teacher, like I've always been in leadership roles. I was president of Asian Culture Club in high school. I was president of Future Pharmacists interested in learning leadership skills in college. I was president of ACCP back in pharmacy school. And even as a pharmacist, like a pharmacy manager, I took on students, and that was probably like my favorite part. I love teaching. And one of the common questions I got a lot of times from like my peers and students, like, hey, like, is this worth it? Like we're like kind of struggling here. We're suffering. I see that you're doing like this real estate stuff, these Airbnbs. Can I do the same thing? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. Like, I mean, I'm no one special at the end of the day. Like, I was born, my body's just, cells. If you cut me, I'll die, or I'll bleed. There's really nothing that's special. I just think a little bit differently. That's all. And I have been blessed to be, like, for some reason, used to being a little bit more courageous. It could have been like through my past experiences, like my parents taking me around the world, helping me realize that like nothing's permanent. Me getting rejected from my elections from when I used to run for elections. Now I run my own business, so I don't have to prove too much anymore. But yeah, they can totally do it. And then what kind of got me thinking about, like, maybe instead of me like becoming a professor at a school, maybe I just start my own business and I teach people, like pharmacists and healthcare workers or six-figure like earners, like how to use their money so they don't have to work for the next, I don't know, 10, 15 years if they really don't want to. Like, my goal technically is to help the people I work with, everyone I work with, retire within 2 to 5 years. And it's through these rural rental real estate Airbnbs. And that's why I have so many videos on them. And then I always tell everyone, like, it's not going to be the most exciting, which is why, again, I'm not going to talk about that in this specific video. But it's something I'm definitely passionate about. And it's just something that's like totally overlooked, and it won't always be like this. Like eventually my strategy is not going to work. It's just like how, like, if you overuse antibiotics, eventually you get antibiotic resistance and it doesn't work. Like everyone, like the antibiotics, the bacteria are going to catch on to like what's killing them, and it's going to get like ineffective. So the same thing for these ones. Like if at the point where like my rural Airbnbs are no longer $200,000 and they turn $1 million and they still make the same amount of money, it's not going to be as effective like how it is right now. Like right now I can tell my friends confidently, hey, go buy this home, you have $50,000 saved up. You technically don't even need the $50,000. I just want you to have it as reserves in case things go wrong. But this home is gonna, if you buy like 3 or 5 of these homes, it's gonna replace your pharmacist income, $150,000. It's so much more tax efficient. You don't even have to be at the Airbnb to actually make money. Like versus like when I work at my pharmacy job, I'm there 40 to 60 hours a week, working overtime, getting yelled at, and missing my family. Like if you're in your 30s like I am now, like I'm family planning, trying to figure that stuff out. And I want to spend time with my own parents because they're getting older, and you can't do that if you're always working. And for me, I thought I could make a better difference if I just started teaching real estate for this reason. And it's not like to say like I don't care about the patients. It's just like I got closer to the people I worked around with, and those are the people I decided I want to commit and put my effort on. So every day that I don't work in a pharmacy, although I still work at a pharmacy once a month, every day I don't work at the pharmacy is a day that I'm potentially thinking, hey, I could help my friend get a better life in the future. I can help them save up their first like $2-3 million, have it invested, so that way by the time they're like 45 or in their late 30s, or if it takes them a little bit longer in their 50s, that's fine too. But they don't have to work anymore, and they won't be stressed, because that's probably one of the biggest things that like makes me really sad. Like if it's a complete stranger, I care, but I care much less than it is like, hey, this is my friend who I went to pharmacy school with for 8 years. We slept in the same library together, studied together. We went through like painful things together, and we created a bond, and like they shared things with me that like made us feel close. And those are the people like I really want to take care of. Although I care about everyone overall, I am slightly partial. It's like, would you choose a stranger over your family, is what I tell people. And like these people are almost like my family. And that's why why I decided, hey, I could go to pharmacy school, teach new prospective students, become really good pharmacists, and what I'd be teaching them would be a really valuable skill, and it's really great. But I would also be worried about like their financial situation, first of all. And I don't know if that's like the best place for me to actually make an impact. Because if you think about it, like if I really want to in the future, which is technically like a plan of mine, is to donate millions of dollars to like schools. But the schools I want to give it to schools that are aligned with my own values, which is like, hey, there goes one of my props. But that goes that aligned with one of my values. So like, what would be more impactful? Me spending 30 years teaching pharmacy, where like I think a lot of people can teach pharmacy much better than I can, versus like I don't know how many people are interested, like who are in pharmacy plus have a finance background that can teach finance, or healthcare in general, like who has a healthcare background who can teach finance, because that honestly does help me identify problems that most people don't identify that healthcare workers have. Like I realize that you guys are probably burnt out. You guys probably don't understand like what PMI is all the time. You guys don't understand what subject to financing is. You don't know what a DSCR loan is. And I can kind of explain that in ways that will make sense to someone in healthcare. And that's why I think you should consider how to use your skills as wisely as possible, and where your time's best allocated. And for me, that ended up being teaching people who have like $50,000 saved, being healthcare workers, how to invest in rental real estate so they can step out from their work life and have some sort of like sanity to spend with their own family, friends, and parents, and hopefully do whatever they want. Go on that trip, explore your hobby, and enjoy your life before it's too late, because we see a lot of death in the healthcare.